Hello my friends, welcome to another watercolor tutorial. We are painting perhaps one of the last winter scenes that I'm going to paint this winter, I guess, as we're coming to the end of winter. I'm painting this right before Christmas, but it's not going to be released until March, and I am crossing my fingers that this is one of the years where like we have a warmer spring, because the last two have been cold and the snow has been here until almost May, and I don't want to experience that again. So here's what we're going to do. This is inspired by Alexi Shishko, by the way. I will include that in the description, her handle. And what we're gonna do is take blue tinted watercolor, and I'm gonna paint, so we have our piece of paper in landscape position, and I'm painting kind of a sloping line running across. So it's gonna start out like here, and then I don't know what those black specks are. That was not intentional. Sort of like this. That's what we want. And then we're just gonna extend that all the way up. But we wanna make sure to keep this line nice and crisp down here for reasons that we will find out later. Now, you might wanna work quickly here depending on the type of paper you have and how quickly it dries and such. But you're gonna take some blue. The kind of blue does not matter. Like, I've got probably 8 blues to choose from here, and I just took the first one I saw. Actually, right after I said that, I decided I'm going to add a little bit of black to mine to make it more of a navy blue. And what we're doing is just adding these bursts. So this is the wet and wet technique, in case anybody is asking, or perhaps you don't have sound on this video, but well, then what I said just made no sense either. But we're adding these little bursts of blue at the horizon line, or at that line that we painted. So try not to paint below it. And these are gonna be like our little trees, I guess you can say, and you can vary up the colors, so you can add different shades of blue or whatever works for you. So I just took a bit more of like a deep blue here, and I'm gonna make this one actually a little bit bigger because I'm gonna have a big tree coming out of this one. Sort of like this. Okay. So that looks quite all right. And I mean, you can, the reason why mine are huge, I kind of regret this now, is because I used a bigger brush and I didn't want them to be that big, but like I wanted some smaller little bursts and some, obviously a bigger one, but I can't do anything about it now. Actually, yes, I can. What I can do is take a smaller brush, pick up black, and add some contrast. So if I add just these little bursts of black, it'll help separate these bursts a little bit better. Something like that. Okay, so we need this to completely dry, so we'll just let it dry. And while it's drying, we can go ahead and start working on this bottom part here. So we're gonna be working with a lot of the white part of the paper. We want to leave it white because that's going to be our snow, and everything we paint over top is going to be like a shade of snow. So I've taken very watered down blue here, and I'm gonna kind of follow this curvature that we painted. So I'll start maybe around here and then just kind of almost meet that line. I would meet it if it was dry, but it's not. And I'm going to paint a straight line here to meet up with that curvature. So kind of brown at the bottom. I don't know where that came from. So, but I don't want it to stay like I don't want it to stay a straight line. So what I'm going to do is sort of blur it out like this. And I'm going to rinse my brush completely and connect it with, I'm just gonna, the reason why I'm leaving a super thin strip here is because I don't want those two to blend together. But what I want to do is take a little bit of more intense blue and basically like paint little tree branches, I guess. They're going to be reflections essentially. So sort of like that. I know right now it looks kind of horrible. And I want to darken this a little bit. So I just picked up blue and I'm using a smaller brush to kind of paint that on, but then I'm switching to a bigger brush to help blend that out just a tad. So right now it looks like a mess, but that's okay. Like, it doesn't have to look perfect. My background blended out way more than I wanted it to, so I think I should have maybe made my mounds a little smaller because they would have expanded anyways. So I'm gonna just leave it how it is right now, and we're gonna let this totally dry before we move on to the next step. So hopefully this is dry. I took a, I was gonna say blowtorch, I meant a blow dryer to it. And what I want to do now, so I'm just trying to figure out what to do first, what to paint first, because we're gonna have a row of houses, but we're also gonna have trees. The houses have white roofs, the trees are black, like black stumps. So I have to figure out which one it makes sense to paint first. I think I am going to paint, actually we can pencil out our houses so we know where not to paint. So I'm gonna have a house, like this is supposed to be like a lot of snow, like a mound of snow, right? So I'm gonna have a house that's like barely visible over this mound of snow. I really need to sharpen my pencil. And then it's gonna come up with this, and then it's gonna slope down, and there's gonna be another little house here. Like that, and it's gonna come up like this. And then have another one here. Actually, that one is, so all I'm doing is drawing little triangles. Oh, that's kind of cool. My eraser erased some of the watercolor. I wonder if I can use that for something. So yeah, I'm drawing a triangle for like the front of the house and then just connecting it with a parallelogram. And then we'll have, I don't know what these things are gonna be here, like little huts, little, I don't really know. But now that we know roughly where our houses are, that is the most important thing, because now we can paint our trees. So I'm gonna grab black. I'm gonna use black for the trees. Actually, I'm gonna mix it with a bit of brown. Why not? There's already brown on my palette, so why not? Okay, and so I'm gonna have that big cloud thing I painted here. That's where I want to focus my main tree stump. And so you can have it coming up and just going every which way. have multiple branches coming off and crisscrossing and do 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 do. When you're painting these, it's rather than trying to meticulously make your branches go in a certain way, like, oh, okay, I'm gonna curve it here and here, just kind of let your paintbrush glide and do its own thing. And when you do that, the branch will look honestly more realistic, because here I tried to glide it, and rarely trees have this beautiful bent branch going in that direction. So just keep that in mind when you're painting. And I'm painting little ones, little tree stumps coming up from beside the main one. We just want there to be all these tiny little branches in the background, like forming the background. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. May your hearts have yourself a merry little Christmas. So I'll have another one over here, like a thinner one. I just want it to be more of a background thing that you can barely see, like you just see some thin branches. Oh, that's what you don't want to do, what I just did there. I'm gonna fix that with acrylic paint later and paint over that. All right, I think I'm gonna just leave. I can always add more later, but you kind of get the point of what the gist, what I'm doing here. So now what we're gonna do is paint the brown part of the houses. So I'm taking my brown, or I should say the triangular part, the front of the houses. And I'm just using my 00 brush here, trying my best to maintain that horizon line. I don't even know if that's, I know what a horizon line is, but I don't think it's actually the appropriate term for this. I'm just gonna call it that because it is easy for everybody to understand what I'm referring to. Actually, what if I make them slightly different colors? How fun would it be if it was like a kind of a Scandinavian red for some of them? Do, 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 do. Do, do, I'm gonna take like a nude color here, but unfortunately it's turned into a pink because I had red on my paintbrush. Boom, boom, boom. So we found this really nice, what do you call it? It's like a hutch buffet combo, and I mentioned this in an earlier video that we have to pick it up. We still have to pick it up, but when you see this in March, we will hopefully long have had it already. But it is like, I'm really getting into making our house how I want it, like nice and cozy, taking the time to do those little details that make your home feel home to you. And this is like a very old piece that's solid wood, and it's also great because it's a great storage solution. Since when we first moved here, we just kind of we kind of used the furniture that we had, which was, it worked, but we are finding the more things you acquire as a homeowner, the more you need room for it, right, to store it. So I'm just taking white acrylic paint here, and I am painting the snow onto these houses. What was I gonna say? Yeah, so we've kind of been very slowly chipping away at renovation projects, at little touches to make our home where we want it to be. And I'm very much like very into homesteading. And you might not know that. If you follow me on Instagram, then you probably know that, because I don't post very much art content on my Instagram, actually. I've sort of made it a homesteading channel, like in my stories. I don't post very much to begin with. But that is something you may not know about me, that I do in my spare time. So I do a lot of like homesteading, like we garden quite a bit, and we have chickens, and I really want to master sourdough bread. It has been this elusive thing for me for a couple of years now, and it's really hard to get it to work, at least for me. And I think it is partly due to our environment. Like, we do not have central air, so we do not have a consistent temperature in our house. It sometimes changes by 15 degrees from morning to night, and Celsius. So it'll go from, like, if we put too much wood in the fire, sometimes it gets to like 29, 30 degrees, like a freaking hot heat wave. What was I gonna say? And then at night, when the fire dies down, we wake up to 14 degrees. So because of that, you know, sourdough starter needs consistently warm temperatures to really do its thing. So luckily now our temperature is a little bit more consistent, because I have to get up at night to feed my baby, and so we just chuck a few logs on the fire while we're at it, and it keeps it going. I also started putting my starter next to the fire, so at least it kind of might not be consistent, but it's warm. It's consistently warm, just not consistent in temperature. So, and that I noticed made a huge difference. I don't know if it was that or the flour that I purchased. I purchased new flour that's like high protein flour. So it, the gluten, I don't know, maybe has more chances to do its thing. But needless to say, one of my goals is to master sourdough so that I can make delicious, healthy bread for us. I have been like I sometimes would make bread, not sourdough, but just make our own bread, but I wasn't like a big fan of it, and it does take time. So hopefully this sourdough finally works out for me. Okay, so I kind of like that my cheap acrylic paint does this streaky thing because it kind of gives this illusion of shadows. So I'm happy with that result. I'm not gonna change that, I don't think. What I do want to do though is make just a portion of my houses a little bit darker, like for shadow purposes, like so. And like this. Yeah, so what I was saying before is I found this Hutch buffet thing, and we are picking it up. It's 3 hours away from us, but only an hour away from where my parents live. So when we visit them for Christmas, we're going to pick it up. And then when my mom visits us, she will bring it in her car because it wouldn't fit in ours. And I'm very excited about it because it'll help complete our home. Now we have this big empty corner that there used to be a shelf there, but we took it out because it was like it just had useless knickknacks on it, and I got rid of all the knickknacks. And now there's just like the diaper change table there. Eventually it'll become something that's useful for the house, but at the moment that's the only thing there. Maybe like a homeschooling corner or something. It's many years from now though. So now I'm painting a fence here. I took black watercolor and I just painted on some vertical posts, and then I'm gonna have them connected with 2 cross beams like so. And I do want to paint, I'll paint another fence up here just because it feels like there's nothing up here. Sort of like that. It'll just be a fence that's going across the whole thing. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if that was even on the camera. And then what I'm going to do is take white acrylic paint and paint some snow on top of this fence. You know, I wasn't really a fan of this paintbrush in previous videos, but it is starting to grow on me. I don't want to put the snow on all of the railings, but I probably am going to end up doing that because it's just too much fun. Whereas someone commented in a previous video, know when to stop, Julia. So this is me stopping, hopefully, maybe not. Although if there's snow everywhere else, it wouldn't make sense if there isn't snow on the trees that we painted earlier. So let me just put a little bit on those branches, just so it doesn't look out of place. I think I say this like every time where I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do it on a few branches, and then I ended up painting all of the branches. I cannot help it, but I think I am gonna stop there because it would take a very long time to do all of them, and we still have other details to do down here. So down here I want to paint little grassy patches, I guess you could say. But I want to lay down a base for these grassy patches first. So I'm going to take like the sandy color mixed with brown, and I'm going to have some down here. So I purposely want this to look very loose. So I've angled my brush downwards, and I'm just kind of making this rough sketch onto the piece of paper. And I'm doing it in multiple areas. Yeah, like this is what I really like, where it's very rough and unstructured. So, all right, happy with that so far. I'm gonna take a little bit of like brown, just drop that in there to darken it a little bit, because I feel that dark contrasts really help amplify a painting, bring out certain details and whatnot. You can even add some black in there if you dare. Okay. Now, before I add the like grassy strands that I wanted to add to this, I'm gonna take a little bit of that original blue that I used for the background, and I want to extend those shadows that we painted, right? So there was like little, it's supposed to be coming from here. And then they extend like this. I hope that makes sense. I hope that didn't like ruin the painting, but anyways. So now I'm going to paint those little grassy elements in. So I'm taking that same kind of sandy brownish color and painting on the grassy strands. All right, I kind of take back what I said about this paintbrush. It is really good for tiny, thin, grassy details, which the other paintbrush that I always use, my quadruple zero that I love, it's great for this, but you have to, like, it would take me much longer to do the same amount because I have to keep reloading that brush since it's so short. It doesn't hold as much water and whatnot, so I'm just picking up some like darker brownish black and painting on grassy strands with that color. And if you make them more like wild, I think they'll look even nicer. By wild, I just mean like literally letting your paintbrush go loose and kind of uncontrolled. That's the look I really like. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I like really effortless looking paintings where it looks like somebody just scribbled it on, but in such a intentional way. Sort of like that. I think I overdid it with the grass because it sort of detracts from the really nice houses that we painted earlier. Like, whatever, it is what it is. I am maybe to subdue it a bit, paint on some like snow covering some of it. Just tone it down a notch. Okay. I think that looks not too shabby at all. So when you are happy with your painting, and if you opted to do so in the beginning, you can peel your tape off. Oh my goodness, I have to do each one separately, it seems. There we go. And that'll reveal a nice snowy, loose snowy scene. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hit like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next